So the movie tonight is Sleepaway Camp, the legendary 1983 slasher flick set in upstate New York, where little 13-year-old Angela first goes off to summer camp with her cousin Ricky, not realizing that just about everybody at the camp is a pedophile or a pervert of one sort or another. So not only are we going to analyze the rather complicated sexual geography of this film, but we have Angela. She's here, Felissa Rose, who was indeed 13 years old when she played Angela in Sleepaway Camp. She will be joining us at the first break to help navigate the perverts. Now, I call them perverts. You guys know me. There's no such thing as a pervert anymore. I realize that. And the reason we know that is from 2 years ago when they had that transgender bathroom thing in North Carolina. You remember that? And remember, and the governor stakes his whole political career on what bathroom they're going to allow the transsexuals to use? That guy was like totally suicidal. I mean, because the economic damage to the state is approaching $1 billion, and the governor is gazing out the window of his office in Raleigh and watching 18-wheelers full of $100 bills heading for Interstate 40 West, and he still believes that Fortune 500 companies and guys that are members of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes are punishing North Carolina just because we're defending our women from the perverts. What was that guy's name? McCrory. You know, what they needed a Southern female intervention on that guy. You know what I mean? Ideally, this would be his grandma. But if that's not an option, it could be his mother or his wife, an older sister, or if all of those are unavailable, any pissed off spinster aunt related by blood. Now, what that is that's where you have a designated Southern female approach McCrory at the breakfast table. You withhold the biscuits until she has his attention. And then you say, Pat, you're either going to stop this nonsense or I'm going to slap you naked. And then she's going to serve the biscuits and gravy, and that's all it would take. She can just walk away. And McCrory knew this. And you know how I know that? Because he grew up in Jamestown, North Carolina. That's just 45 minutes down Highway 52 from Pilot Mountain. Okay, Pilot Mountain is the town cited by Andy Griffith as the inspiration for Mayberry in the Andy Griffith Show. And if you know your Andy Griffith, there's always two ways of solving a problem, right? There's the Sheriff Andy Taylor way. You know, Andy would put the town drunk Otis in jail, but he'd leave the key with him so he could let himself out when his sentence was up, you know, because Andy's philosophy was always, calm down, we can figure this thing out together. And then there's the Deputy Barney Fife way. You know, shoot first and ask questions later, which is why Andy limited Barney to one bullet, required him to keep the bullet buttoned inside his shirt pocket. But the point I want to make is, we Southern men, we understand Governor McCrory because we know that sometimes we're Andy Taylor and sometimes we're Barney Fife. We're both. We can go either way. We can suddenly decide to buy a log cabin in Gatlinburg sold to us by a timeshare shark who fails to tell us that the cabin has no indoor plumbing or running water. And what do? We insist for the next 20 years that we don't need an indoor plumbing or running water. It's more fun this way. You know, we can get so insulted by a neighbor's fence that we decide to build our own fence 1 inch away from his fence. You know, we can wake up one day and decide that the air horn on our recreational vehicle needs to play the Woo Pig Suey chant of the Arkansas Razorbacks. But we only do this when we're in Barney Fife mode. When we're in Andy Taylor mode, what do? We listen to Aunt B. Because Aunt B insists that the flowers get pruned even if we don't like flowers. Aunt B insists that everybody be at the supper table together at 6 o'clock, even if we have other things to do. Aunt B makes everybody go to church, even on days when you have a headache. And Aunt B insists, above all, we don't do anything stupid or redneck. So Pat McCrory just got in Barney Fife mode for a while. Because remember how this thing started? I promise you, all this is related to the movie. It started because the city of Charlotte passed an anti-discrimination ordinance, okay? It wasn't even about bathrooms. It was about housing and taxis and other areas where people were getting hosed because of their race or their gender. But it did have that one part about people being allowed to use whichever bathroom corresponded to their brain gender. So what would Andy Taylor do in this situation? He would say, you must be talking about Clem Stinson, because I know Clem wears a dress, God bless his heart. So yeah, we'll take care of it. Barney, tell me whenever Clem is around so we can make sure he doesn't get bothered by the guys at the barbershop when he goes in the ladies' room. Right? And what would Barney Fife say in this situation? He would say, we have to nip it, Andy. We have to nip it in the bud. Well, the whole North Carolina legislature turned Barney Fife all at the same time. They wrote it, they passed it, they signed it all within 11 hours. The Democrats in the Senate were so disgusted, they walked out and they refused to vote at all. And then before the ink was even dry on the document, there was more chaos in the state of North Carolina than there was on the day Barney started hiding behind a bush to enforce the speed limits on the road to Mount Pilot. And what they could have done, they could have just asked some Andy Taylor questions like, well, Barney, the law says that you can only use the bathroom corresponding to the gender on your birth certificate. Who carries a birth certificate around? And Barney, another question, I don't see anything in the law about enforcement or penalties. What happens if you do go in the wrong bathroom? Do you get jail time, or they just make you clean urinals for a week? And Barney, has anyone ever been arrested for harassing women in the ladies' room while dressed in drag in the state of North Carolina ever in the last few centuries? And the Barney Fife inside Governor McCrory says, no one's been arrested because we're nipping it, Andy. We're nipping it in the bud. And you know how that whole thing ended? They got a new governor who said, forget it. Just forget it. You know, which is how every Barney Fife episode ends, right? And then Andy tells Clem Stinson, okay, it's okay to wear a dress now. You know when that North Carolina thing was really over? When the whole sport of basketball turned against McCrory. Basketball is religion in North Carolina. I mean, McCrory could have survived attacks by the United Nations, by the Pope. When the basketball coach of Duke University says you're a dunderhead, you might as well just go spit on the Wright Brothers monument at Kitty Hawk or something. I mean, the NBA pulls the All-Star game out of Charlotte. The NCAA pulls everything out. But here's the thing. The ACC pulls its championship out of Greensboro. I mean, North Carolina owns the ACC. That's like North Carolina being boycotted by North Carolina, because you got University of North Carolina State, Wake Forest, and Duke. I don't know where they moved it. They would have to move the tournament offshore or something. And then Mike Krzyzewski comes out against the governor, Coach K. And the guy still doesn't have any survival instincts. He's still Barney Fifing it. Who cares about the Blue Devils and the Tar Heels? We're talking about our moral values here. Okay, Cirque du Soleil won't go there. Okay, French-speaking acrobats and leotards, right? Screw them. This is North Carolina. Hollywood won't film at those sound stages in Wilmington anymore. Who cares? Hollywood liberals. Pearl Jam won't go there. Beyonce won't go there. Ringo Starr won't go. Okay, they won that one. But look, Governor, if you're watching, I'm going to explain it the way Aunt B would. They're not perverts. Jeez.